What's up everyone, it's ENDYMION, and there has been a cultural shift in the world as of late, as I'm sure you've been noticing to varying degrees lately. It seems as if the push against things like identity politics, woke ideology, and more has started to sway. From the Act Man denouncing this new wave, Sweet Baby's newest game failing, and much more, so let's begin. As I'm sure you're all aware, the Twitch kick streamer Destiny has been in hot water lately. Not only because he lets other men sleep with his wife while he watches, but because he went on an unhinged tirade attacking the deceased victims during Trump's assassination attempt. This has officially led to Destiny getting banned on Kick and Twitch, not indefinitely mind you, but banned nonetheless. Normally, this wouldn't really happen if we're being real, since being banned for making fun of right-wing individuals is almost unheard of these past few years. As we all know, it's totally fine to attack anyone conservative for anything. After all, Gamergate exists because left-leaning creatives refuse to give their audiences what they want. Which are, whether they want to admit it or not, a large section of the paying customers are conservative. The point is that media for years now has been against right-leaning ideals for a long time. Especially during the era of 2020 when everything was locked down, even speaking right-wing ideas was bannable on most social media platforms. I think it's fair to say that my channel does defend right-wing-esque ideas more often than not, and to be real with you guys, when I was younger, I was probably a little more left-leaning myself. This was mostly because I was an idiot who knew nothing and was being conditioned by the school around me to think a certain way. But as I got older, especially once I left high school, I started to see the world very differently. Things started to change, and now we're at the point where for the past, I would say, 8 years or so, it's been pretty much you are left-leaning or you should basically die is the accepted rhetoric in the world. Video games got worse, movies did as well. Marvel started to reject their winning formula for more DEI and woke pandering. And now the MCU is a dumpster fire for the most part, and sadly this is the case across the board. Just look at Star Wars. Now since the whole Trump thing, stuff has been shifting. I've been noticing more often these days people getting cancelled for attacking right-wing individuals. There's plenty of posts on X of ordinary people getting witch hunted in real life for saying the next shooter shouldn't miss. And even recently, as you know, the whole Tenacious D Jack Black thing where the tour got cancelled and Kyle Gass got let go of from his agency. There's a shift happening here. I wouldn't say it's 100% conservative only, but it feels like the pendulum is starting to return to the center after being left for so long. But anyways, the Act Man, who's a YouTuber you probably know, decided to throw his hat in the ring again. And before I get into him, I just want to clarify that I do not hate the Act Man at all. In fact, I find some of his content to actually be well done and somewhat entertaining. But in my opinion, the guy is not exactly a beacon of nuanced political talk. He should keep to his lane, which is strictly video games, but anyways. So, Destiny got banned, and then the Act Man decided to weigh in by saying, "Let me be the first to welcome our new cancel culture overlords. Thank goodness Kick is finally cracking down on speech that I personally do not like." This is rich coming from the Act Man, considering how he treated Az from Heel vs. Babyface last year when it came to the whole Starfield controversy. In case you forgot, Az went on a rant about how Starfield and every current Western game couldn't help themselves from injecting current-day modern political nonsense into everything that they do. He was right, by the way, and I defended Az back then too, and I still do. When Az first said that, thousands of people dogpiled him, making wojaks out of him and saying, look, it's a grown man scared of pronouns. But that wasn't the reason. They were instead missing why he was saying what he was saying. Starfield had pronouns and other nonsense pro-left-leaning ideologies that were strewn all over the game, and it of course was filled to the brim with ugly female characters besides a few of them. And if you also remember during this time, the Act Man went into a very public fighting match with Az on Twitter, where he wanted to debate him, then he didn't, then the Act Man exposed private DMs that were between him and Mauler, who's a friend of the channel, and Mauler tried to mediate the situation because Az had no interest in speaking to the Act Man. This went on for a while, and eventually it ended with both parties just washing their hands of the situation and moving on entirely.
All the DMs I'm going to show you are between me and Mauler. I don't want nobody giving Mauler shit for this. He did his best to try and mediate a conversation. He was in an awkward position. Nobody give Mahler shit, okay? So here are the DMs with Mahler. I say, some people in my Twitch chat were telling me I should ask you to set up a discussion with Az and have you be a moderator. What do you think about that? September 6th. Just pay attention to the dates and times. Mahler says, I'm super unfamiliar with the game. I don't think Az is going to be interested. He's just carrying on doing his thing. Not much of a fan of any of the viral posts about him, being that there's so much missing context about his views on the whole thing. Great. Let's talk, and you can provide that context to me directly. Is there something specific you wanted to talk to him about? Well, I think it'd be good for us to talk about it. Could do well for our channels and bridge a gap, so to speak. You make your videos, I make my video. Then we could come together, talk about it on your channel, my channel, and have an interesting conversation. We make content. Hopefully squash the beef, shake hands, move on, everyone's happy. You could pose the idea to him and see what he says. You know me decently well. I'm not the type of person to hold grudges or hate someone just because I disagree with them. I'm sure we wouldn't just talk about the game, but the concepts of woke culture and media too. I wouldn't necessarily want to treat it as a debate. So at this point in time, I don't want the conversation between me and Az to be treated as like, okay, I'm right, you're wrong, let's fucking go. I think there's too much bad blood at this point. He doesn't believe you made those tweets in the interest of understanding the situation, but rather for engagement. He's not interested, and I don't think he will be convinced otherwise. He felt very supportive of you and a lot of what you had to go through, like the demonetization. So obviously this has created a very sour impression. Understandable. Then let's talk in private, just the three of us. Private conversation, not about content. Let's just try to understand each other. I made those tweets because I didn't understand what he was saying. And because it's the internet. You know, we're public figures. You goof and gaff on me, I do the same. He doesn't strike me as a shy man. What could be the harm in a private conversation? I very much appreciate that he was supportive of my situation back then. I will always have a certain level of respect for people that did. Tell him that's why I'm reaching out. This is still true. This is still true. I still have a certain amount of respect for Az for having my back in my darkest time. It might create more drama to tag Az in a public tweet, and I have no other way to contact him, so I'd like to settle this bad blood if possible. I understand if it puts you in an awkward middleman situation. I have spoken with Az, and he said he is happy to have a private chat with us. The idea of no audience and just us to figure out the miscommunications, differences in a call will hopefully have some good outcomes. Only he's gotten a fever, and I think has the flu right now, so might need like a week before setting this up. Do you want to let me know what kind of availability you have? Sounds good. Let him know that I do have a video about Starfield hot takes going up. It's a bit late for me to unpull the trigger, and it is mostly for content purposes. As he made a couple videos on this subject, I hope he understands. There are more important things than our squabble disagreement on this subject. He stuck up for me in my darkest hour, so I want to make sure he knows he has an ally should his channel ever face any unfair demonetization of videos, or God forbid his channel gets terminated. That's what I was going to say.
The Act Man proved in that moment that he was willing to stoop as low as exposing private messages with another user without their consent, which kind of left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths. And since that whole debacle, Az has gone from being the guy who's afraid of pronouns in Starfield to over time the mass majority of people now agreeing with him. And that's kind of what I've started to notice across the board when it comes to media this past little while. Suddenly everything that I and others have been fighting for is being confirmed as not being crazy, and that what we've been saying is actually real and not fabricated narratives. We were always telling you guys the truth the entire time, and it's good to see more people finally seeing it now. With the Act Man, yet again, sadly, not being able to read the room, he's saying that the new cancel culture overlords, to which he means the right-leaning individuals, are the new boogeymen. It's funny how he says they're cracking down on speech he doesn't like, obviously in a sarcastic sense, but he was totally fine with dogpiling people like Az for months because it went with his agenda. Remember when the Act Man suddenly changed his tune when Gamergate 2 started and he was acting like he didn't know that any of this was happening? Suddenly he was against Sweet Baby, where he said back in March this year, "So I started looking into the Sweet Baby Inc. stuff, and I cannot fathom why game studios would hire a narrative consultant group. Isn't that what lead writers are for? Why not just hire a better writing team and keep it in-house? LMAO. Ah yes, suddenly, out of nowhere, the Act Man changes his tune on a subject the moment it becomes more socially acceptable to do so. The same guy, by the way, who said this about Az. Gorilla-shaped man on the verge of crying because Starfield lets you pick pronouns at the start of the game and then it's never brought up again. Somebody please shoot this guy with a bear tranquilizer, he's going to attack someone. You see what I mean? He seems to only shift his opinions once they're given the okay by the powers that be around him. It's sort of like what Grum said recently, which I covered in my last video, which is that a lot of people just don't have their own opinions or morals at all. and they just form them based on what they're told by other people, then act that way once it's okay to do so. That's what the Act Man has been doing for a while. Again, I don't hate the guy, but criticism when it's due. He is being hypocritical here more often than he isn't. We all know whenever a right-leaning individual would get cancelled or attacked, people like the Act Man would just stay quiet. Because as I said, it was socially acceptable to treat people who were conservatives as subhuman. It was actually encouraged and rewarded by the media and those in power. After this whole Trump thing, it's clear that things are changing, and it's evident that we are racing off to a new era where suddenly all of these preconceived behaviors that were once encouraged are being immediately met with pushback and, for lack of a better word, cancel culture. It's incredible how quickly narratives change, since for years this has been happening. Remember when that Rosetta scientist guy, Dr. Taylor, got in trouble because he was wearing a shirt with sexy women on it while talking about the upcoming comet mission, and then everyone wanted to cancel him? And the dude was so distraught and confused from the backlash, he's pretty much never been heard of again publicly and had to apologize over and over because people are wimps? Or remember when Gina Carano, a conservative Hollywood star, spoke on vaccines via Instagram? And then she got fired and blacklisted from the entire industry overnight, while her co-stars like Pedro Pascal compared conservatives to Yazis in World War II, and he's still gainfully employed and she isn't. Or when Notch, the guy who made Minecraft, just said on Twitter that it's okay to be a white person. And now, since Microsoft owns Minecraft, his name has all but been scrubbed from the game's legacy and he was cancelled for that? Yet if someone said it's okay to be Asian or black, it would be celebrated. I'm not done, by the way. I got plenty of more examples. Remember back in 2019 when the entire leftist movement dogpiled a young man for wearing a Make America Great Again hat? And then he ended up winning a defamation case against him, but it didn't stop tons of woke weirdos from attacking him regardless? Or when the creator of Five Nights at Freddy's, whose name is Scott Cawthon, got ousted for supporting Donald Trump, and he refused to bend the knee or apologize for his politics despite the fan base of Five Nights going absolutely berserk over his political opinions? And then places like the Mary Sue ran hit pieces against Scott because he dared to think differently than them? And that to this day his name is considered evil if you utter it alongside the franchise? You'd think he was a P-word or killed someone, but no, he was just a conservative guy living in America, that's all. Grum's had some other great examples too, like remember how Zoe Quinn, who worked with Feminist Frequency, accused Alec Holoka of assault, but none of it had any evidence to support it, but everyone in the games industry believed her anyways, and blacklisted and threw Alec to the wolves? And he ended up taking his own life, and to this day Zoe Quinn never apologized for that? Or remember that little kid who was cheering on his favorite sports team and wore the uniform and everything to show his support for his team? And woke weirdos wanted the kid dead pretty much because he was culturally appropriating something when he was just showing support for a team he loves with all of his heart? And by the way, it turned out he was part Native American, but that still didn't stop them? Also remember when liberals canceled the OK hand gesture and got it removed from Call of Duty because the gesture was considered a symbol of white supremacy and it was suddenly racist? Or remember how you were all forced to stay inside so you couldn't live your lives, but Nancy Pelosi, a Democrat, was able to leave her mansion to get her hair done while also not wearing a mask during lockdowns, and yet the woke weirdos defended her anyways? Remember when CNN doxed a guy for making a joke about Clinton supporters and they threw him in prison for making a wrestling gif? Where were the woke weirdos then to defend that guy's free speech? Remember when two lawyers were caught throwing Molotov cocktails at police cars during the George Floyd protests and each Molotov cocktail has a minimum sentence of 10 years? But the lady on the right in that photo only got 15 months and the guy got away scot-free? Where was the cancel culture back then? Remember when the game Evolve's community manager was fired for sharing his opinion on Donald Trump, and because he was not a hardcore woke weirdo like others, that he was fired and made an example of? Or when they tried to cancel the creator of Kingdom Come Deliverance because he is a conservative that was making a game about knights during medieval times in Europe? Strange, I don't remember any woke freaks getting mad over that either. Remember when a Subnautica developer got fired for being base and replied to a comment from InfoWars and now he's gone? Or when the co-founder of Atari was denied an award for being a pioneer in gaming because of his sexist behavior? When it turns out the allegations were based with zero facts at all, and eventually they were proven wrong, but those articles are still up claiming that he's a sexist? I don't remember seeing the Act Man or any of the liberal gaming press apologizing about either of these, did you? Or when Smash JT got his website taken down after mass reporting done by Nick Calandra of Second Wind. He did eventually get his site back, but why weren't the gaming press protecting Smash JT? Why weren't they writing articles about it in order to spread awareness? I could keep going, but I think I've shown plenty of examples so far to prove my point, I think. Remember when streamers were getting cancelled for playing Hogwarts Legacy and got called transphobic by woke gaming websites and were put on a website list? Okay, I'm done, I promise. I think that's enough examples for now. Just kidding, one more. Remember when Oculus's co-founder was fired for donating to a billboard for President Trump? As you can see from all of these examples, it was woke liberals that were canceling conservative-thinking individuals exclusively. And none of these sites, your IGNs or whatnot, would dare defend the victims of many of these hit pieces, because they didn't politically align with them. And why didn't the Act Man make a video or two covering any of this cancel culture? But now suddenly, because the other side, the woke side, is getting a taste of their own medicine, suddenly now it's a problem and cancel culture is bad. Okay, good to know. It's like this one user on Twitter who recently talked about Jack Black and said, Jack Black turning his back on Kyle Gass, we live in unprecedented times. Oh really now, it's unprecedented because a liberal guy canceled his liberal friend? Very interesting. But of course, it's business as usual if someone conservative gets blasted or cancelled, right? This is the hypocrisy I fight constantly, and man does it feel good to say that we are turning the tables on these people now. For years, base individuals have been getting cancelled all over for simply speaking their minds, and it was terrible. You can't say what you thought without fear of losing everything you have, so I ask the woke freaks out there. Now that the shoe is on the other foot, how does it feel to be accountable for your actions finally? Not very good, is it? This last week, the woke freaks have been living through is but a taste of what me and many others have become conditioned to living in for the past 8 years. Oh, you got cancelled for your opinion on the internet? First time, huh? Welcome to the party, fellas. The Act Man saying this now just proves that yet again, he only changes his opinions once they are deemed socially acceptable. He never spoke up for anyone in any of the examples I gave. He threw Az from heel versus babyface to the wolves and laughed as he was swarmed, because Az is a conservative with an opinion the Act Man didn't agree with. And now that things are changing finally, now it's suddenly a problem. So ultimately, these are only issues as long as woke liberals have to pay the bill. You're finally getting a taste of your own medicine, and you really don't like it, do you? Well, it's too bad, because it doesn't seem like it's letting up anytime soon. The wave is coming, times are changing, and if you couldn't tell from this video and many others on the internet, people are largely just fed up with all of this. We are sick of being attacked, blasted, and told that our opinions hold no value because we won't condone or bend the knee to these people's insane pleas. The world needs common sense more than ever before, and a return to reality finally after years of living in la fairy tale land with the crazies for so long. And speaking of crazies, let's mosey over to Sweet Baby Inc. They're ruining games still. How do I know? Cause a new one they're working on is coming out very soon. It's called Flintlock: The Siege of Dawn. And as of the making of this video, it is officially out. Aren't you excited to play Sweet Baby's next magnum opus? And by magnum opus, I mean a 70 on Metacritic according to reviews, which are calling the game decent at best and middling and boring at worst. Because that's exactly what these reviews are saying, by the way. The game is dead on arrival, across the board. Besides the whole cancel culture thing flipping, games are too, it seems. Nobody wants to buy anything with Sweet Baby attached. I mean, after all, nobody is really even talking about this game, and I mean, who could really blame them? It's a game where allegedly Kim Belair, the co-founder of Sweet Baby Inc., forced the studio to make the main character black over her original white character design, and made the story about a person of color killing gods that are allegories for colonialism. I wish I was kidding, but I'm not. And of course, the majority of bad guys you kill are either white men or ghoulish creatures that vaguely also look like white men, because of course they do. And the majority of the people in positions of power who are good are people of color, and women of color especially too. The classic check all the woke boxes kind of game. I love it because it's becoming easier with each release to figure out which game Sweet Baby Inc. could be attached to in the future. You just look for all the telltale signs and it's almost always true. Woman of color main character, tons of white guys dying, something something racism allegory, yeah, it's not hard to find out. I guarantee you that Snoozelock the Meh of Dawn will be on PS Plus and Game Pass within less than a year after this game flops and nobody buys it. I also wanted to check, so I looked it up on Amazon and it's $60 Canadian at release. Yeah, ain't nobody gonna be buying this slop, this is gonna come and go like a fart in the wind. Also, the main character is a black woman wielding a tomahawk, which is a Native American weapon, and a flintlock pistol, which is of European design. How dare this woman culturally appropriate not one, but two cultures with her weapons of choice? Is that how this works? Or is it fine because she's a black character? Just want to make sure I know. I wonder how well Black Myth Wukong is doing with its pre-order sales. You know, the game that rejected Sweet Baby's help when they tried to extort them for $7 million? Oh, that's right, Wukong broke its pre-orders by well over 1 million in China alone already. As it states, on June 10th, Chinese developer Game Science started the pre-sale of its upcoming action role-playing game Black Myth Wukong, which sold out within seconds. Currently, reservations on the e-commerce platform JD have exceeded 1 million. The PC Deluxe and Collector's Editions of Black Myth Wukong are limited to 20,000 and 10,000 units. Wow, so when you make a based game that rejects SBI, you sell over 1 million copies in pre-orders within seconds of going live. But if you make your slop diversity simulator game that nobody cares about, and it reviews poorly too, so your woke journalists don't even like it either. Damn, that's crazy. But as you can see, dear viewer, the pendulum is shifting at a rapid pace here. Cancel culture comes for the cancel culture pigs. The Act Man is yet again proving that he doesn't seem to have any concrete opinions of his own, and Sweet Baby's Kiss of Death is going to claim yet another developer before long. I would say that I am sad about these things, but these people hate me for simply being me, so instead I will just smile and wave. Thanks for playing, weirdos. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. As for all of you, thank you for watching. Subscribe, share, like the video. Thanks to my patrons and members. You can sign up for as little as $3 a month for exclusive emojis and badges. Please take care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next one.